issuing the change. I'm still a little put back complete selected inputs in the same order. But the adding to this confusion that I'm having right in the second,
this part is confusing after the create transaction. I agree.
So I want to quickly go over Unfortunately, the recording that I have, it wasn't recording the audio, so I restarted something real quick. I want to go over kind of just briefly what we've talked about. So we've been reading through the payment portal, or Ergo payment portal code. We're running through the send transaction method, trying to understand really what is required for interacting with the Ergo blockchain. Specifically, we are going through what happens when you request a payment using the Ergo payment portal. And specifically, it's using a reference that you create. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. Sorry, I just want to, for posterity, I want to try to there we go. Go back through everything real quick. So if you go to this payment portal, you say who you want the money to be sent to, what kind of funding you want to receive, how much you would like to receive, and then a unique identifier for what you're asking for. So if you were, say, asking for, like a T-shirt, you could just issue that into this identifier. So when you're asking for money from a specific person, you can receive it, and it'll show up directly in the link that they get. And then when they go to that link, they will only see what they need to send. And I think this isn't coming through right now because it's not connected. And then this is what you will see as someone once they have sent the payment. Is that correct?
Yes.
So as soon as someone sends the payment, then you can see it here so that it can actually be collected by the person who sent the request. Is that correct?
Yes. Cool. And there is also a small offline tool to be able to get those information without going to website to get them from a server, for example.
Okay, cool. Okay, so then what really happens when you open one of these links? I'm not sure. Is it when I'm opening this link? Is this what it should be showing? Or is it not because I'm...
Yes.
Okay. So then how do
Yes, it should load the amount and the payment identifier.
It might be because
maybe
of
don't do it because you don't have your ROI as
nightly, yeah.
Try to connect to your ROI really at the beginning. The application is usable only with your ROI nightly.
Okay. So
yes, it's a problem but yes, I made an application for your ROI nightly.
Yeah. So that's just to be clear with whoever is reviewing this. And so you'll receive a payment, a page to actually send your payment. It will
proceed the payment. Yes, it looks like the page you see from your bank when you want to pay. Some website don't have their own page, and you go to the bank page. This looks like this.
Okay. And 1 second. Okay. So there. Okay. So then this is what it actually should look like. I don't have your ROI set up on this right now because I had to delete it, but when you go to the link, it'll show, this is what you're paying for, this is who you're paying, this is how much you're being asked to pay, and then you would say send transaction, and that would be interacting with your ROI wallet automatically. And so that's kind of the reason I wanted to go through all that, was just so that when you press that send payment as the buyer, this is actually what code gets called. And so we're running through here and pulling it directly from the page, just who you're supposed to be paying to, um, the currency that you're using to pay, the amount that you're using to pay, oops, and the reference. So in this case, I think it was T-shirt 001, and the change address, and this is referring to the buyer's address, correct?
Yes, yes. This
So
is the one connected to the Yoroi wallet.
Right. Okay, cool. So then this is basically everything we need to proceed. And then this is calculating the actual fee for the transaction, or is this the fee for the payment processing?
This is the fee for the application deployed for the DApp. Yes.
Okay. Okay, yeah. So then
this can be disabled if
you
host your own payment portal to proceed the payment of your website.
Cool. But this, just to be clear, it's just not the fee that you would be paying to use the network. That would be separate, basically calculated automatically. Or it happens somewhere else.
Yes, this is calculated and configurable at the beginning of the file.
Okay. And then so quickly in here we're converting to nano ergs and to for SIG-USD, is it global nano ergs to be sent to send int? Is this referring to fee float? Okay, no, it's the same fee. Okay.
In fact, if there is a DApp fee and we pay in Sigma USD, we will have two boxes in output. We will create two boxes, so we need two times the minimal amount of erg we need to create a box. And if the fee is completely disabled, we won't create the fee box, so we don't need twice the min erg box value. And so we will just create the seller output box, so we just need one times the minimal erg amount.
Okay.
If we pay in SIG-USD. If we pay in erg, we will have more than that value, so we don't care.
I see. Yeah, so this is explicitly because if we're paying with SIG and we have a fee, then we have to pay for both the transactions to give out the fee and to actually handle the transaction for the escrow, correct? Is that the idea?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, and so then you're adding, if we're using Sigma USD, you're adding to the tokens list, which is used to build the box, correct?
In fact, we are preparing the input for the box selector. So we will have all the unspent boxes in eUTxO variable from Yoroi. We will get all the boxes that are not spent. And we will use the box selector with those parameters we have just prepared to get the minimal amount of boxes to proceed our transaction.
I see.
We will select our inputs among the input availables.
So, builder suggested transaction fee as int. So, is this?
Yes, this is this step that selects among the unspent boxes of the Yoroi wallet. It selects the one required to proceed the transaction with that amount of erg and that amount of SIG-USD token.
Okay. And this from check add to. So is this basically asking though for all of the boxes that the current wallet is connected, and then this is asking for an amount for the fee specifically? Is that correct? Or no?
In fact, to the we will add. We already have computed the amount to send to the seller.
Okay.
And in the amount we will request to be selected from the unspent boxes, we will additionally add by this command the transaction fee paid to the network.
So that's just right here. So we get
So the transaction fee to be paid to the network will be added to the amount we have computed when we request the box selection.
Correct. Okay, cool. So then we calculate the amount we want to send as a string. Is that correct? Yeah, it's a string, and then back to I64, and then the box value from this amount, and the amount to be sent is calculated from this value, which we did the math for earlier. And now all we're doing is saying these are all of our boxes, this is the amount we want to send, and then these are the tokens that we also want to send. I see. Okay. Make sure that this didn't do something stupid. Okay. Okay. Excellent. Then this is just if something went wrong, and we are creating our output boxes. Just to begin, so once we start creating our output box, we're adding a couple of things to it. So if we go through here, we're saying, is this essentially just building what we want to add to the output? Yeah, so all of this is building what we want to add, and then
yes, at the end we are adding it to the. First we create an empty output box list, and then we create the first output box, and we in the try at the end we are adding it. What we have built, we are adding it to the list.
Awesome. Okay, and then this is just for building the box to send for the fee.
Yes.
And then adding. Well, you're not building. So just to be clear for this the communication, it is. Is it two different boxes? Yes. So we create this candidate Ergo box candidate, and it is adding an additional box to the output candidate. So is it link? Is it actually linking the two boxes through, or is it so essentially like the transaction happens and there are a number of boxes that are to be processed? Does it actually do you know if it's handling essentially two transactions by chaining them together?
No, in fact, one transaction will proceed a list of inputs to a list of outputs.
Okay.
One transaction, and there is no real limit of the number of inputs or outputs.
Right.
To my knowledge, there is a limit in terms of size of 4 kilobytes.
Yeah.
But yes, so it will proceed a list of input to a list of output.
Okay. Yeah, I think what we've it's I think one of the launches that we had for ErgGnomes, there was a limit that was accidentally hit because we were basically putting hundreds of transactions into essentially one box. So it was just chaining them, and it was surprisingly able to. Like it's been fixed since then, but yeah, that's just some GNOME history, I guess. And so cool. So moving through that, we create the actual transaction, which has our box selector, which is really being constructed here to interface with the wallet specifically. Is that correct? Kind of with the information.
Yes.
Output candidate.
Should be possible to use your e-wallet without this pod selector, and sometimes I manage to do it, but it's complex. I don't know everything.
No, that's perfect. So we have our box selector. We're taking this suggested fee, and this is kind of accounted for. This is actually network fee, right? This is
Yes.
Right.
This is yes. It will be suggested by the network
and
or the library.
Change address is referring to essentially the buyer in this case, and then safe user minimum. What is this referring to? This last variable? Do you know?
Yes, it's for the transaction builder. If he needs to create a box just to add tokens, or it will not put less erg than this value.
Okay.
Because it will create some boxes, and you cannot create a box with less than the minimal erg amount that needs to be put in a box to exist. So it will. This is to set up this property. And basically we say automatic.
Okay, that makes sense. It's basically creating a transaction that will be picked up by the miners. Is that kind of the idea? Like, and if it doesn't have a certain amount of is it information or is it erg that it's referring to?
It's the amount of erg that will hold a box.
Okay.
As a minimum. If you don't want to send any erg but just want to send a token, you still need to put some erg in the box, and this is this amount.
I see. Okay. Cool. So then we're doing our data inputs. Transaction builder is setting data inputs to this new value data inputs. Do you understand this part of it, or is this sort of boilerplate kind of stuff?
So yes, data. In fact, in Ergo transaction, we have inputs, outputs. The inputs are transferred to the outputs by the transaction, and we can also put additional boxes that are not spent by the transaction, but that are here just to provide information. For example, the contract may be able to read the register of the data input that can hold some information to proceed the contract. So here we don't use any data input, so we create an empty data input and we add it. But
okay, that makes sense. So it's just sort of it's the way that it.
Another kind of inputs available in Ergo eUTxO. Or not spendable input, so you provide some boxes that stay in the blockchain and just reference some value. For example, if you have some configuration for your application, you could host them in a data input box. That is, you control that box. You have created it with a contract. You are the only one that can spend it. So you are storing this configuration in the blockchain. And if you want to change that configuration, you destroy the box, you create a new one, and you will reference that box in your product to be read by the contract.
Oh, cool.
Basically, yes, you could store a configuration of an application in those data inputs. I see it like that, but I've never used them already.
Okay, that's cool. And then we're parsing our transaction to actually, is this, I think that's just kind of what needs to happen. Parse and transaction for the, can you explain some of this? This is getting a little bit confusing. Is this?
I don't exactly know why this step proceed, but it allows to validate that the transaction is correct for the Ergo library.
Oh,
It
okay.
will create the unsigned transaction object and then parse it back to JSON.
Oh, okay. I see. So for formatting and for the actual network to easily process what it's taking in, it formats it.
Yes.
And then we're
And
starting.
this is a mysterious step.
Yes, the actual.
It's mysterious. I don't know exactly why. In fact, Yoroi requires raw inputs. So when we send a transaction, we can send the complete box input with all the information or just the box ID because it is stored in the blockchain. So wallet don't really need to have all the input boxes. Just the ID is supposed to be enough. But Yoroi requires all the input boxes. So, and the parsed transaction that was generated don't have all the information. It is so we put back all the complete input boxes in the same order.
Okay.
In the JSON that was generated.
Cool. Yeah, that makes some sense. So it's kind of like building the box again as a JSON object uh, to insert into the actual transaction because the blockchain is expecting the JSON object, perhaps. Go on.
Yes, I think Yoroi is sending a raw transaction with input raw and output raw.
Okay.
So it's required to have the full. I think, but I don't know exactly why this step is required. But without it, the transactions are not valid.
Cool. Yeah, I think so. Hopefully, we'll have this recording up, and maybe we can get some someone
some feedback.
Yeah, some bigger brains to jump in and yeah, I know I've only talked to some of the core devs a few times, but just the thinking behind this is not it's not like minimal amounts. It's a crazy amount of thinking that's gone on to how this interface works and how kind of smart it is. Okay, cool. So then, really, at this point, we're doing some things for. This is all relative to your front end, right, or your site. Just starting the visuals.
Yes, we are setting some global message and trigger a sweet alert pop-up. Wait, Yoroi.
And going to sending the transaction. Oh gosh, I lost myself. Okay, so processing transaction and what is this wall?
This is a pop-up that was triggered.
Cool. And so more just updating and displaying the transaction ID.
Another pop-up.
And then actually, these are all fire. So all of the transaction happens in this process transaction call. Is that right? And then everything else is listening for how it went.
Yes.
Cool. So then if we sign and submit, and this is here. Ergo submit transaction.
Native.
What's that?
Yes, it is. Yes, we just call submit to Ergo Wallet.
I love it. All right. So then, right then, your money should be going to to the network. It now knows how to give it back to you, how to give it to the person that you asked it to be given to, um, and really like there's not a whole lot else going on with the code. Am I correct? There's the whole part of the server and the monitoring side of it, but you know we may. It's already, I think, a little bit longer than we talked about meeting for, so we can come back to that if that's unless there's something you kind of wanted to jump in on that. It's a lot less code, right?
Oh yes, we can explain in a few minutes.
Cool. So
it's just a kind of proxy. You send a request with your address. You know to do only one thing: is transfer this to Explorer, the proper URL, to get the unspent boxes of your address, and it will filter by the reference of the portal, and will send you the boxes, only the information that you want, so the amount you have received and the reference of each payment. It's just a proxy that asks for a JSON to Explorer and modify it and return the smaller JSON with just the reference and the amount you have received.
Awesome. And then that kind of the voucher page that you were sharing before that is connected to your account?
Yes, exactly. Yes, it's the JSON version of the voucher page, but you cannot do it in because here the code is running only in the browser, so there is no server part for this application. I could not integrate this feature in the browser.
Oh, okay. So how is it actually pulling this down right now on your site?
This is pulled from Explorer.
Okay. But it's not the same code that we were just looking at a moment ago? Or it is?
It's really similar, yes.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool.
Yes, there is the same code that is on both sides. Yes, this 444 is on the both sides.
Okay. Yeah, so really we've gone through a lot. I think we've gone through really what you need to know to create a transaction. And really you've separated the logic in a nice way, I think, where you have it set up where you essentially, you create the transaction information that you want to be using in the generate payment URL side of things, and you allow for that to be really easily shared and set up for really any site that wants to accept payment for either whatever that might be. The wallet connection is very slick as well. As far as like moving beyond, I think we definitely ERGNOME specifically can add something like this for how we'll handle payments in the future. Um, and yeah, I really hope that this recording does well to explain some of what you've done. And is there a good way to get a hold of you in the future? You have your Telegram, and you can find a lot of your work is on our Discord now. So
yes.
Feel free to refer people here if they have any questions. But yeah, I just wanted to thank you for taking time today. And is there anything you would like to add?
Oh, you are welcome. I was happy to share what I've done. If there are some web developer, they will find it like 20 years old code, but
I think in my experience,
I will make some progress.
I think in my experience with Ergo, there's just I think in a lot of blockchain development is I have this analogy in my head. It's like it's like rock and roll, where you just have to be told like that you can play the instruments. Like there's this feeling of like going through this
Yes,
today is a lot easier for me to know like what part of it is magic and what part of it is super, boilerplate that I just need to memorize, and what part of it is logical that I need to understand. And some of it is whenever you can't tell the difference, it's very hard to really feel like this is my work and not just this is my copy paste. But I think getting people to just accept that they're in charge and that they can do this, that it's just believing in themselves more than anything, is it's just a lot of that. It feels like giving people permission to do the thing, um, and believe that they're a rock star is mostly about just like showing them that, or giving them the trust in themselves that they can do this, and that it's a little bit scary, I think, because it's money and it's code, and you know, when a lot of people I think in our Discord are really really interested, um, and wanting to kind of get over that initial hump. And it's just, I think, just a little bit of hand holding goes a long way at this point with blockchain in general, and especially with Ergo, I think, because it's UTXO is much. It's like simple, but it's not obvious. I think it's kind of surprising that when you think about like how an actual cash register works. Like if you were to do that in code, it seems almost strange that you're coding the change. That you're coding the actual money back in this way, as a separate action. As silly as it is, it's just like it's a strange to wrap your mind around. And yeah, I think for myself, I think this has been incredibly informative, and just helping for me. Like I said, I'm in charge of the front end side of things, and so finding someone that has this information and getting them to sit down with you is very hard, because if if people miss the like if people have this information, there's a lot of opportunity for them to be applying it, and not always do they have the time to really be sharing it. And so, really, I want to thank you again for taking the time, and I hope everyone, can give you some positive attention, because I know there's a lot of people out there looking for people like you, and yeah, just thank you very much.
Welcome. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, awesome. Well, let's stay in touch. I know Fiona, the artist for the project, is going to be creating a custom gnomekin for you, and
Yeah.
and yeah, let's try to maybe do this again next time. You're going to be working, and be happy to run through and try to make sense of everything if you're interested to do that.
Okay.
All right.